Out of pretty much nowhere, Adidas have decided to release an update to their Copa Pure line, resulting in the brand new Copa Pure 2 Plus. Now this boot shares a lot of similarities with the existing Copa Pure line, so you might be wondering why would Adidas even go through the trouble of updating this series? Well, Adidas actually have made a few important changes on this new model, and I think that their main goal is to win over a few people that weren't completely sold on last year's Copa Pure. So in this video, we're going to be talking about exactly what those changes are and whether or not the Copa Pure 2 Plus is going to be a good option for you. And if you are interested in picking up a pair, I've left a link in the description with exclusive discount codes where you can find them online. So getting straight into things, let's start off with some of the most obvious design changes that you can see in the new Copa Pure 2 Plus, and that's going to be the addition of laces back into the football boot. Because as you may have remembered, last year's original Copa Pure Plus did have a full leather upper with no traditional lacing system and just leather all throughout the top of the midfoot here. And as you can see, the new Copa Pure 2 is still going to have that one-piece upper, but there's going to be an extension of that prime knit collar all the way down the length of the midfoot, and you're also going to have the addition of those laces, which are just going to give you a little bit more lockdown. So with Adidas being a brand that's pretty much all in on laces football boots, you may be wondering why did they add laces back into one of their more popular laces models? And at the end of the day, I think it comes down to wanting to give players as many options as possible. Because there are a lot of players that really like the one-piece upper feel that laces football boots offer, but they just want a little bit more lockdown around the ankle and around the heel area, and that's what something like this is going to accomplish. Now that being said, other than the addition of the laces as well as the extension of this prime knit material, the other features of the Copa Pure 2 are going to be pretty much identical to what we saw last year. You're going to have a quilted fusion skin upper throughout the football boot that's going to combine both calf leather as well as recycled materials. And throughout this upper, you're also going to have a variety of textures. It's not going to be uniform throughout. For example, on the side of the boot here, you're going to have a much more firmer and padded feel for cushioning the ball, but then towards the toe box, you're going to have a really soft material. And although, as I mentioned, the upper is a combination of both recycled materials and leather, it still feels very premium to the touch, and it's just really soft where you want it to be. And the torsion frame outsole that we saw last year is still going to be unchanged, and it's going to be that really aggressive, lightweight, and rigid sole plate that we've seen Adidas use for several years now. And if you don't already know, Adidas was actually using this exact sole plate on their older Nemesis line, which is a really aggressive speed boot. So essentially, the Copa Pure line is a leather football boot that's built on top of a speed boot outsole. And that really makes it one of the most aggressive sole plates that you can find on any leather football boot. It's got these really sharp half-moon studs that are going to provide more than enough traction on firm ground surfaces. Now moving on to the fit and feel of this football boot, this is where I think the Copa Pure 2 Plus actually differs a little bit from the previous Copa Pure models. And that's because you're going to get a best of both worlds feeling with that one-piece upper as well as the addition of laces giving you all that additional lockdown. My first impression trying these on was that they were really comfortable. I also appreciated that it was really easy to get into these football boots. Sometimes when you have these models with this elastic inner liner here, it can be difficult to get your foot in, but as long as you undo the laces a decent amount, it's pretty easy to just slip them in. And when I tried on the Copa Pure Point 1 last year, I actually felt that those boots were a little bit too snug for me, but when trying on the Copa Pure 2 Plus, I thought they were a little bit more accommodating. And that may have just been due to that added elasticity that I'm getting from that prime knit material that's going all throughout the midfoot. That being said, these still feel really snug, especially for leather football boots. But they're not so snug or tight to the point of being claustrophobic. Also, although you can't really see it, the inner liner of this football boot, especially near the toe box, is really thin and really soft, so it gives you the sensation of feeling that entire leather upper. And even without the laces tied when you put these football boots on, there's still going to be a decent amount of lockdown. Really, all those laces are going to do is just going to give you a little bit more security and lockdown around the top of the ankle as well as the back of the heel. And so if you've ever wanted to try out laces football boots, but you don't like the feeling of your heel slipping or you don't get quite enough lockdown, this is definitely going to solve that problem. And as with basically all of Adidas's high-end football boots, you're also going to find padding at the back of the heel here, which is going to reduce blisters. But one important thing to note about the feel of the Copa Pure 2 is that I did find that they ran a little bit long. So I ordered a size 10.5 US, which is what I typically get for most football boots, and I found that there was a little bit more than a centimeter of space between my big toe and the edge of the boot, which is just a little bit more than I would want. Now they still fit well overall, but if you're going for a slightly closer fit that's more responsive, I would recommend going about a half size down. So now let's talk about the playability of these boots, because I think that's an area where they really excelled. On feet, these boots just feel so light and snappy, and I think that's mostly due to the torsion sole plate here. It's just really aggressive, rigid, and quick on feet. You definitely get that feeling that you get with a lot of other speed boots, where you're kind of propelling yourself into each step just because of how rigid the sole plate is. Then as far as the touch on the ball, this is one of the best parts of these football boots. When you're dribbling or just juggling, the upper at the front of the boot here is so soft, and you really get that close leather-like sensation on every touch. They're obviously not going to be quite as thin as something like the X Crazy Fast, but you're still going to get tons of sensitivity throughout the upper. Now I will note on the sides here, it's going to be a little bit less soft, but you do have more of a cushion material here that's going to be good when you're receiving a pass. And one thing I personally liked was that the upper on the Copa Pure 2 is not really sticky at all. It's actually pretty slick all throughout. So that's going to come down to personal preference, but I like when my football boot isn't too sticky because it can be a little bit annoying when I'm dribbling, and I just like having that more slick matte finish. I also felt like the lockdown was great with these boots. I didn't really have to tie them particularly tight, but I didn't feel any pressure points throughout any part of the boot. I also felt that the lockdown was great with these boots. I didn't even have to tie the laces particularly tight, and I also didn't get any pressure points throughout any part of the boot. And overall, they were just really enjoyable to play in. But now let's talk about the value of the Copa Pure 2 and how it stacks up against the competition. Because these boots are currently retailing for $250, which is a really premium price point for a leather football boot. Especially when you consider other options like the New Balance 442 V2 Pro, the Nike Premier 3, and the Adidas Copa Gloro, you can get all for about $100. And if you're after just a really simple leather football boot, I would definitely go with one of the three options that I just mentioned. They're going to give you that same fit, feel, comfort, and playability that you get from a traditional leather upper. However, if you want a football boot that combines leather with a more modern aesthetic and build quality, as well as a one-piece design, that's where something like the Copa Pure 2 Plus is going to come into play. There's really not many leather football boots that are going to offer you a knitted collar, a one-piece upper, and a really aggressive sole plate. So if you're interested in a modern, aggressive, close-fitting leather football boot, I would definitely recommend checking out the Copa Pure 2 Plus. So that is going to do it for this video. If you've gotten the chance to try out these football boots, let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, if there's any other football boots you're interested in me reviewing, just let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.